And we went to the bride Stillday Villiard sons that are here. The family, God's family. So we're going to start with Skip Sandman and do an opening prayer. That's the way we do things. Good day and welcome, everyone. Every day is Indigenous Peoples Day for many of us here, but today, the city of Duluth celebrates Indigenous Peoples Day with us. And with that, acknowledging that we are the first people, that we were not discovered, we were always here. We were always here, and we will always be here. And we are here today, and we are going to be here into the future. So this is what we celebrate, is Happy Indigenous Peoples Day to everyone here. Yeah. We've got a really good lineup today. We're pushing forward speakers in our community that normally don't get asked to speak, but they certainly have something to say. Our theme today is I'm proud to be Indigenous because, and that's what you're going to hear about today. You're also going to hear a prayer from Skip Sandman standing behind me. We always start with an opening prayer, and we switch to all of our lineup of hand drummers over there who brought in the Eagle staffs. We always do that first, is bring in our staffs and our flags. So we also will be hearing from Shawn Carr. We have guest speakers DeFoe, Brian Stillday Jr., and Villiard. So we're excited to hear from them and give them a lot of support as they are kind of new speakers. Then we have Mayor Emily Larson, who's going to do the City of Duluth Proclamation. And whoever wants to do that with her is a few paragraphs. And she'll have a few words to say to us. And then we're going to have an honor song, because this is a day that took us a long time. This is a victory for our ancestors. So who we're going to honor here is our ancestors, and who never thought they'd see days like this. We're going to start with Skip Sandman to do the opening prayer. That's the way we do things.
Amani dudu anagum wian benda koshike anani ka gigit anagum gishi mani du jawe ne ma on nishna bidu kuma indash mani du jawe ne ma o ani nishna bi gishi gadunku indash mani du ishpin o dewa ga on nishna bidu kuma indash ngi mashka se tapamari ziwen amino wagu game ni ka gigit na mani du wadanang Jawanan, Ningabianan, Kivedanan, Amanidu and Ishpamilat, Amanidu Oma King, Aminoa, Manidu, Wayne Danimak, Ambe Mamajan, Manituk, and a Jawanem Ao, Nishanabidu, Kindash, and Nishanabi Gishigat and Lukum, in Dash Manidu, Kaga, Ashwinama, Ao. Ini Mishina Be Agijigad. Amina go game money to work. Wayne Danimak. And the Goom Daga Nina Gago ni Mishina Be Omikiti Wag all. Gagi Neo Bizindaneg only Gagi. What I talked about is ask the spirits from all the different directions to come in and bless this day, Anishinaabe Gijigad, Indigenous Peoples Day. Bless the people here. And I also asked that we don't have to fight no more. We can live in unity. We can be recognized and walk hand in hand on a road to peace and recognition. In which is in that name. Thank you for listening to me.
I also want to acknowledge the two Eagle staff carriers standing next to me, Shawn Carr and Taysha Martineau, Miigwech, for being here today. And I have a problem with introducing myself, so I'm going to finally do that. I'm Babette Sandman, Makademi-Boy, Anishinaabe Indigenous Cause, Duluth Indigenous Commission Chair. We're going to start now with our first speaker, Michelle DeFoe, and give her a lot of support. She's just fresh at speaking, but I think she's going to be a really great speaker.
Bonjour, Nindinawe Maganiduk, Mashkunuji and Dudem, Wabananga Gokwe Indigenous Kanagu, Nisquawikong and Dunjabar, Dasho Nigamising and Danungum. Miigwech Biyajaya Goma. Thank you all for coming here today. My name is Michelle DeFoe in English. I'm from Red Cliff, Wisconsin, but I've been living in Duluth for 20 plus years, so this is my home now too. When I got asked to speak, I thought it would be kind of cool to ask some young people what they were proud of being Indigenous. And a lot of times we have adults up here speaking, but little kids, teenagers, we hardly get to hear them speak. And so I thought I would ask a couple young people. I only got 2 responses, but I'm going to share them with you today. I asked a 10-year-old girl, why are you proud to be Indigenous? And she said, because of everything that we experienced in history with genocide and violence, we are still here today. We are still speaking our language and thriving. And then I asked a 17-year-old, why are you proud to be Indigenous? She said, because I was raised with a cultural upbringing and I didn't feel like I needed to steal from others. I'm grateful for my cultural upbringing. My culture is not rooted in violence and greed. We do not force religion on people or beliefs onto others. Our culture is rooted in community and respect. So those are the voices of the young people that I asked, and now I'm going to move into what I would like to share. I am proud to be Indigenous. I am proud to be Anishinaabe because of our unique connection to the land here. We have a strong relationship and an understanding that all of the plants, the roots, the bark, the leaves, the grasses, every part of every tree and plant is a medicine. And so when we look out at the plants, even here today, every piece of all of the plants here are medicine. All of the animals, the money-doon-sug, the bugs, the bees, the spiders, every piece of every animal, their fur, their flesh, their meat, their blood, their tendons, and every piece of that animal, even their bones, can be used for something. And they are also made up of medicine, and us humans are medicine as well. And so that is our cultural perspective. Every single one of the plants, the animals, including us, we see as spirits. And so our body is what houses our spirit. Although our body goes back into the earth, our spirit goes back into the star world and comes back again. Our babies are our ancestors being reborn. Because we see all of these animals and plants as spirits, we also have legends, Arizokana, Debajamoan, on stories, thousands of stories about their life and our relationship with them. For example, the birch tree, we have stories about how the birch got all of its markings. We have stories about maple trees and how the sap turned into syrup. And so these hundreds and thousands of stories that we have about the land and our connection to the spirits here is how we have a relationship with the land. And so because we have that relationship, we have that relationship built on respect and reciprocity and responsibility to nurture and care for the land here. We also understand that we were the last to be created, and so the rocks and the plants and the animals were here before us. Humans arrived here last. And so the earth can survive without us, but we need the plants and the animals and the rocks to survive. And so that comes from a perspective of humility and respect again. We think about the next 7 generations when we make decisions. What legacy are we going to leave for the next 7 generations? And we think about the last 7 generations and how they walked on the earth and how we can learn from them. That's why I'm proud to be Anishinaabe and Indigenous, because we hold all of the stories and the relationships with the land here. There's over 500 nations in America, and so Anishinaabe is just one of those nations. And as we move across Turtle Island and even Indigenous people around the world, they each have a unique relationship with the land that they're on. And that's what makes those cultures diverse. They each have their own language, ceremonies, songs, dances, and that's what makes each one of those cultures beautiful, vibrant, and diverse. And so for non-Indigenous people in this area, I would just suggest maybe starting to have a relationship with the land here. And part of that is talking to Indigenous people, because we understand that relationship built on respect and stories. And if you do that in a respectful way, everybody can learn how to have that relationship as well. Despite the genocide and violence, circling back to what the 8-year-old girl had said, despite the genocide and violence that happened to our people, we are still here. We're still thriving. We're still remembering our language and culture. It was not wiped out. Our people were not wiped out. We just have to remember that connection and reestablish that connection. And so we're here doing that today, and we're still protecting the water and the land. And that's all I have to say. Meet you, miigwech Bizendawiyeg.
With that said, I was thinking of starting taking Anishinaabe to lunch day. Take an Indigenous person to lunch day, and then you can learn more about what things that Michelle just talked about. I'm going to call up our next speaker, which is Brian Stillday Jr. Now, this guy always gets called out upon to come and do hand drumming, and he hardly ever gets to be called upon, or maybe this is his first time being a speaker, so let's really give him some good support.
Bonjour, my name is Brian Stillday Jr. I'm from Red Lake and Boys Fort. Before I started, I just want to take a little bit of your time and remember the late Renee Vanette and also the brother Jeff Boje Sr. I wasn't gonna participate today, but when my auntie left, she left me with a little push. And I just want to take a little bit of time, have a little moment of silence for those two, because those two were a big impact in this area, either in the political area or in the sobriety area. Those two did a lot. So if we could just have a little bit of silence. All right, miigwech. Yeah, those two really did a lot, and looked up to them. I'm not from this area, like I said, I'm from Red Lake, Boys Fort, but I've been around here for the last 13 years. My family's from Fond du Lac. I'm a proud father, husband, brother. My youngest just turned 2 years old yesterday. My oldest is about to be 13. I guess I had to change my life around because I have 7 sons. 7 sons that look up to me. 7 sons that I gotta steer in the right direction. And I'm just proud that I'm able to be there for him, because I see not a lot of people have that opportunity. And today means a lot. Like Indigenous Day is every day, not just today, not just because it's put on the calendar. It's every day. I just very appreciated to get the opportunity to come up here and talk. I usually don't talk. I'm usually took a break from doing the AIM Twin Ports, where we're helping out the community here with clothing, maybe a little bit of food, stuff like that. I was working, trying to take care of my family, but now I'm be back out here. Because I do it for the community, I do it for the love, I do it for my family, I do it for my brothers. And without them, I probably wouldn't be here. Because I have all their support backing me up. That's why I stand up and do what I do. And I just want to say, miigwech.
See, that's why we need to look at the younger generation, especially people like that are my age, and push them forward. They have things to say. And so keep them in mind. It doesn't have to always be us speaking. Let's get these ones that hardly ever asked to speak up here. Okay, so our next speaker is Mary Villiard.
So usually I don't write stuff. I'm kind of off the cuff when I speak, but I felt like writing today, so I wrote a little thing. But I also just wanted to add to it that I'm proud to be Indigenous because this is my community. So I'm proud to be Indigenous because my ancestors have lived here since time immemorial. I'm proud to be Indigenous because within our community is the knowledge of how to exist here an inextricable connection to Turtle Island and possibly the answers to some of the world's biggest environmental issues. I'm proud to be Indigenous because this knowledge has endured despite attempts at genocide enacted again and again against our communities through policy, blood quantum, residential schools, and violence. We may not all have the same access to our traditional knowledge, but we all have something to contribute. And as we all work towards a way of life in line with what our ancestors practiced prior to European contact, we all know something and have a role and purpose in our communities to fulfill, and that's another reason I'm proud to be Indigenous. I'm proud because I'm grateful for my Indigenous aunties and extended family. I'm proud because we're at the center of this amazing arts movement here in Duluth that spreads nationwide of uplifting Indigenous narratives and storytelling and all sorts of different mediums of art, and I'm so excited to be a part of that in my everyday work. Our community is full of artists and storytellers to the extent that I would gather that nearly every Native household has a creator of some kind in it. And to my knowledge, that there's no word in a lot of languages, but including Ojibwe-Moan, there's no language or no word for artist or art. And so art is a way of doing, it's a way of creating, whether it's through beadwork or basketry or sculpture or painting, speaking, or even building a fire. You know, there's art in everything, and our people are artists. Families from Fond du Lac, Le Coudray, and Moravian Bend of the Thames in Canada. But I'm based here in Duluth. And then I feel like I'm always kind of on the same wavelength as Michelle when we talk. So I was like, okay, I need to start removing things from my stuff to not be repetitive. But she mentioned for non-Native folks who are here, I kind of wanted to talk about that concept of land back a little bit. So at least in the, the work that I've been doing in the community, there's a lot of Native elders and artists and organizers in our community and across Turtle Island who are in need of space and resources to continue uplifting our stories and our culture and to continue healing. And so to non-Native folks who own land or property or have free access to space in our community, I wonder, what are you doing or what can you do to return access to the land to our communities? Regardless of if your family was actively or passively benefiting from the land grabs that happened, what are you doing to create a paradigm shift and open things up? Because we have ACO as a cultural space and a housing space. Do we have other buildings that we actually own or spaces where we can do our cultural activities in Duluth without needing permits or to pay for access? I don't know. If you know, let me know. So just something to think about if you're in a position of having access to space. And I'll give the example of when we had the Chief Buffalo project, down at the Lake Walk. There's a woman who's non-Native who had a house. She has a house here in Duluth and she has property in Minneapolis. And when she'd stay in her property in Minneapolis, she let us have her house for the entire summer. And so that's how our two North Dakota artists were able to stay here free of charge through the whole summers while we were wading through all of the stuff with Chief Buffalo. So things to keep in mind. And then, I hear a lot of arguments against like reparations and land back that like, it was a different time. My ancestors, that I shouldn't be punished for what they did and things like that. And I guess my call to action for us is to not be the generation that they say that about. It might have been a different time then, but that was in a bad way. And so today we need to be even more different, but in a good way. Be good.
Before we go on to the mayor and the proclamation in the city of Duluth, Shawn has a few words to say.
I just want to say I'm proud to be Indigenous because it's such an honor to organize this every year. I'm also proud to be Indigenous because I'm not an individual, I am part of the many.
Now we're going to bring up Mayor Emily Larson, who is going to say a few words and read the proclamation for the city of Duluth.
Wushu, Miigwech, thank you so much. My name is Emily. I am here with you in community today. It's beautiful today. The sunshine is just bringing it all together. There does feel to be a growing movement and joy in today. And so thank you everybody for being here. I do want to acknowledge that we are all policymakers and we are all organizers, and we're all doing the important work that we have to do. I do also want to acknowledge that Hannah Alstead from the City Council, Jen Schultz from State, and Liz Olson from State houses are here, and so these are some of the people also advancing our shared values and work. Ashley Grimm is here from the county, and this is where, we're all important people, so just want to acknowledge that. I am here in a humble way with an open heart, knowing that the work we do as community is a progression both forward and backward. And I want to acknowledge that the existence of Indigenous Peoples Day goes well beyond when we started formally recognizing it. And it was the vision of people before me, working in community with others, feeling called to name something differently, more importantly, a reflection of heritage and hope and life and generations and our future. So.
Whereas for many years, the second Monday in October has been recognized as Columbus Day, with little or no regard for the Indigenous peoples who were already here when Columbus arrived, and
whereas the lore and legend of Columbus Day do not accurately reflect what happened to those Indigenous peoples and the fate they collectively suffered, and
whereas it is important that citizens of Duluth know, understand, and honor the history of our Indigenous population. Some of that history includes the shores of Lake Superior, upon which Duluth sits, was once home to an entire Anishinaabe village and is still home to many Anishinaabe people. The city of Duluth is grateful to these Indigenous peoples and extends its acknowledgement for sacrifices made so that all other populations could enjoy the beauty and richness of Lake Superior's Basin City.
Therefore, we, as a community in the city of Duluth and as mayor, do officially proclaim October 10th, 2022 as Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Duluth. Be good.
We are going to ask for an honor song because we want to honor our ancestors who held all of our ceremonies underground for centuries, waiting for a time that they knew there'd be a time that we would need those ceremonies. So they kept them underground at the risk of being arrested for even burning sage or doing what Skip did. He said a prayer in Ojibwe. That was all outlawed. So to stand here and do a prayer in Ojibwe and have our hand drums and speak freely about our cultural ways and how we think about things is a victory for our ancestors and all hard work they did. So we'll have an honor song at this time. I love being on the Anishinaabe for feelings like this, to feel that heartbeat of the earth. And did you feel it? That's what it feels like to be us. And we went to the drive-through, your sons that are here. The family brought us family. So we're going to start with skip Sandman and do the opening prayer. That's the way we do things.